What's good, man? Welcome to week 3 of the rebuild. These weeks are flying by now. Monday seems like they keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. Thank you so much for your support, man. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Every single week from now on, the first thing I'm going to start saying when I come on here is, it ain't me, it's all God. Because literally the stuff that I've been doing and the responses I've been getting and the way this has been coming together, one thing I prayed before all of this in August is that if it's meant to be, it come together like pieces of a puzzle. And it's been doing exactly that. So thank you all for supporting it. Thank you. Every week I'm going to say that, man, just because I'm very appreciative, man. Very appreciative. You all support inspire me to keep making another episode, And even through the tiring nights and the early mornings and working and getting everything to my standards of perfectionist, you all have legit been so supportive. So thank you all for the kind words and the constant support and the heart emojis and the all the emojis. There's been a lot of emojis the last couple weeks, but thank y'all, man. Week 3. Just a couple things before we get started into the message. 1, congrats to whoever won. It's Thursday right now, so I don't know who won because I'm drawing maybe Monday morning or Sunday night. But congrats to whoever won. I hope you enjoy it and be smart with your money. JK. Do your thing. Hey. But congrats to who won. Next Monday, no episode for Thanksgiving. Also, I want to try to release my website, get my clothing and stuff done by that Monday, the 11th. November 23rd. And then also, I'm getting in rhythm with how this podcast works. So that 1 week off will give me an opportunity to get 2 or 3 weeks ahead to where I can function for the next 10 weeks, 10 months, and it be smooth. So yeah, next week, no episode for the first time. I don't know if that'll ever happen again, but if it does, oh well. But hey, tune back in with me on the 30th. I know. It hurt me too. No, I'm joking. But seriously, thank you all so much for your support. Week 3, man. Week 3. Hope you all enjoy Stuck in Ordinary. Message was long. First episode was long. Hopefully I can get these episodes in between 45 minutes to 55 minutes. But just as a side note, man, watch it when you can. Listen when you can. Don't feel obligated to sit down the whole message if you got stuff to do. Get you 10 minutes in. Come back for another 10, come back for 5, whatever, however you want to go at your own pace, do it. You don't even have to be sitting down. I also made it be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for people who like to listen on the go. And this is mainly for people who listen to my podcast but are not big podcast fans. They just listen to it because they know me. This is for people who don't know how really podcasts go, you know. You can listen to it on your way to Birmingham in your car, or listen to it on your way to work, or whenever you got time. That's the whole gist. Like, don't feel obligated to knock all of it out at one time. Just break it down into pieces that would best fit you. Whenever you free and you ain't got nothing to do and you bored, just go watch you 10, 15 minutes of it. However you want to do it. Long as you're applying what it say, it don't matter how long it take you to watch it. If you're applying it, you will see the benefits of it. So, like I said, let's get into this message today, man. This message is kind of neat because of the fact that I wasn't expecting to teach on this today. And what I was expecting to teach on was death mentality, which is going to be a good message as well whenever it comes out. But I was expecting to teach on death mentality, but I ended up going home and seeing this message through an old notebook that I was going to speak on this summer when we was having quarantine services at my grandmother's house. About 4 or 5 people would come. And my granddad would give a message one week, I would give a message the other week. But it's called Beginning at the End, which I'm sure you have seen in the title already. But Beginning at the End. And when I was looking at it, I didn't think that I was going to speak on it, but I was like, man, I may speak on this. So I guess I did think I was going to speak on it. Point is, it goes hand in hand with Stuck in Ordinary. Not the whole message, but one piece of Stuck in Ordinary that I spoke on. And that one piece is how when life is going crazy and life is just in the pits and we down bad and down and out, we tend to credit that to the devil and be like, oh, this is just the devil doing. And I rebuke that. But when we do that, since we rebuked it, we never learned the lesson that God was intending us to learn because maybe he sent that to us. And this week, I want to give us a whole big insight on that one part into a whole message. And I want it to be something that fuels you and, lights fire under you to understand that being at a dead end is only the beginning for something great. Not necessarily just having a bad life or having, all these problems going on, because it's a call from God to come home. It's an opportunity that God is putting you in situations where you obviously can't get yourself out of, not because he wants you to be stuck in it or not because he wants you to live in it, which people a lot of time tend to do. And that's why our whole life is ordinary and bland and just unhappy, is because we're living in our dead end when God has put us through that situation as a hope to call us home to his love so he can give us what we really need and what we want. So that's this whole gist of this message, beginning at the end. How us coming to the end of ourselves is the best place to find ourselves because we have a choice to keep functioning from nothing or insert God to be our everything. Rock bottom is a call home and not a devil's scheme. Rock bottom is a call home, not a devil's scheme. I mentioned last week, every story that I done ever heard from somebody on how they found Jesus, they was at rock bottom. They was at rock bottom and they just got tired of living at rock bottom and wanted to try God, and he worked miracles in their life, miracles in my life. But I also know people who are at rock bottom and they have failed to try God. So it's the best place you can be because of so many possibilities that are available to you. You just have to realize it and take that opportunity on God. So let's get into it. Luke 15:11. Let me know when you get there. Say amen when you get there. Nah, just. But Luke 15, we're going to talk about the prodigal son, because what better parable from Jesus about us choosing our own way, finding out that our own way didn't work, and we ended up in a dump because of our own way. But then us going back home and realizing that God isn't mad, but he's in love at the fact that we came back home. So I want us to, at the end, I really want us to grasp the whole of that. Like, if you don't even watch this whole message, please watch the end, point 4, where I'm telling you about the love of God, because that is one big thing in my life that changed the way I looked at God, the way I spent time with God, and it made it easier to spend time with God when I looked at him in this particular way. So stay tuned or just skip to the end, whichever one you want to do. It's going to be gems all in it, hopefully. So Luke 15:11, we're going to start at 11 because I said Luke 15:11. But it says, Jesus continued, which means he was already talking about something. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to the father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set out for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that country. I'm doing too much. I'm trying to put this time over there. After he spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. Look at me. I'm doing it again. I miss with it later. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to the fields to feed the pigs. He was so down bad that he had to go feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with it's just disgusting. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. And not just disgusting, but like, that just shows us, man, how deep of a pit we get ourselves into, that we long to settle for crumbs when God is offering us steaks and lobsters, and he's offering us crab legs, and I don't know what else sound good. But we settling for crumbs, man, because we're choosing our own way. choosing our own will, which we about to get into. But when he came to his senses, oh boy, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I would set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to his father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, I be reading these like I'm reading the elementary kids. Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his fingers and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. It's a party. It's a party. It's a party. Hey, it's a party. But point one, such a good story, such a good story, such a good story. But for us to first find out how we can begin at the end, I think it's important to first figure out where the end begins. So it says beginning at the end is the title, but where did the end begin? Because every dead end has a beginning. And this thing that I'm about to tell you, which is our will, is the beginning of the end. But this is like that dead end sign at the beginning of the road. Anytime we choose to follow our will or choose our will over God, that's literally a dead end sign before you go down the road that got a dead end. It says, Jesus continued, there was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to the father, Father, give me my share of the estate. Give me what I want. Give me my will. Give me what I ask for. Our will is the first thing that leads us to our end. That leads us to a place of need. That leads us to a place of lack. That leads us to a place of not having enough. God's will is the exact path that keeps us from that. But those are the two things that every single day is the biggest struggle with us as humans, because naturally we're just already selfish beings. It's all about me, 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 me. It's all about you, 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 you. It's all about ourselves. It's all about ourselves. So we get so caught up in following our will. And even society tells us this. You self-made. Make yourself a boss. All these things that make you get caught up in following your own will and your own desires that you put aside God's will. But following our will is a bus pass out of God's life. Literally. The son said, give me my estate. But what you need with that? What you need with that? Give me my estate. And the father gave it to him. And we'll discuss why I think he gave it to him in a few. But our will, what can our will be described as? Three things. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. 1 John 2:6 says, for everything in the world, literally every sin in the world, everything in the world can be categorized into the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And these things come not from the Father, but from the world, which shows he left his father, went to the world, so he was struggling with not just a couple of these, but all three of these. And when we discuss stuff like this, as I'm going to mention every single time, I don't care if you get tired of it, this isn't me being on a high horse talking down. This is me talking with. This is me sharing some wisdom that I know that even though I know it, I still got to apply it. This isn't me thinking I'm better. This isn't me saying this and that. This is stuff that I have to apply to my life every single day because I have to make sure I'm not struggling with my own will. Because I can give you the keys to success and receiving God's blessing and miss out on them if I'm not applying them myself. So it's just me sharing what I know. Sharing what I know. But our will is those three things. The lust of the flesh. What is the lust of the flesh? The lust of the flesh is wanting or doing any activity outside of God that fulfills or gives us pleasure in our flesh. This can be sexual sins. This can be gossiping. This can be physical violence. This can be drugs. This can be, we know what the lust of the flesh is. We do. And if we don't, we got a lot of verses that we could go through, or just hit me up and we can figure that out together. But the lust of the flesh. And the crazy thing about this, I've seen my biggest problems in relationships, in life, with people, all the above. My biggest problems come from when I am choosing my own will with the lust of the flesh. Because I'm making selfish decisions that satisfy me, but not actually thinking about other people. And that's the quickest way to lead me to my end. Secondly, the lust of the eyes. The lust of the eyes is an excessive desire for something we see without respect to whether we need it or not. Now, there's me, or was me 2 years ago. And I be having to be careful sometime to this day because I see a shirt, like, oh, that shirt look good, I'm gonna get that. But it really used to be bad. See, I tried to use a little shirt example, but I can't even cap with you. It used to be bad when I was buying a lot of these shoes. I was buying a lot of shoes. Like, it was to the point where I had like $200 pair of Jordans in my closet, but didn't even have $5 to get a meal at McDonald's. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. And to this day, I still love shoes. But what was my point of getting it? What's the motivating factor behind you want all those clothes, or you want all those shoes, or you want all these things that you really don't need? What's the motivating factor? Because truthfully, mine was to be seen as if I had it, to overcome this insecurity that I wasn't being seen or noticed at all. I wanted people to be like, oh, he got it. He talent balling. Because like I mentioned in my introduction video, I wasn't being noticed at all. That was my sophomore year when I started buying a lot of shoes. So what's your motivating factor behind what you're doing? Ain't nothing wrong with having a good little fit, some kicks, but what's your motivating factor? Is it to overcome an insecurity, or to want people to look at you, or is it just because you genuinely love those shoes and you just wanted to get them in, for good reasons? So thirdly, the pride of life. And second, with the lust of eyes, like I told you, I had the biggest problem with my relationships. With the lust of the flesh, with the lust of the eyes, I had the biggest problem with my finances. Dead broke. I'm talking dead broke. Dead broke. Dead broke. But pride of life, that's the third one. And that's wanting to have or do something that makes us look superior than others. Whether power at work, a certain position, a certain achievement, or needing people to look up to us and admire us. So this can be like, if you got money, you buy or you post your car. If you had a blessing to get like a Mercedes, you post your car just to stunt on people, not to genuinely. Ain't nothing wrong with posting your car. If you genuinely just posting to show a love, you washed it or something, you just love your car. But what's the motivating factor? Or this can be just posting, if I post all my J's to try to stunt and make myself be seen or make myself be known, what's the motivating factor to all of it? Because if it's to make yourself seem superior than others, that's the pride of life. And I've seen God humble me and tap my head, like thump my head just like that. People that's listening on our podcast probably confused with thump my head, like, boy, you ain't nobody to sit down. And like humble me, like lip in, like, boy, you ain't nobody to sit down. That's I can't even laugh because that was funny. Me and my homies trip out there. But yeah, like I've seen the biggest humbling experiences in my life from me following the pride of life, which led me to my end. Financial problems led me to my end. Relationship problems led me to my end. Following our will is a guarantee every single time to take us to our end. Choosing our will is choosing to get out the path of life and true joy and fulfillment for a life that seems fun culturally, but really leads to nada. Like I said, it's that dead end sign. It's telling you, hey man, this path ain't got nothing at the end of it, bro. This don't lead to nothing, G. I'd turn around right now if I was you, bro. This ain't leading to nothing. Choosing our will is getting off the path of life and true joy and fulfillment that God's will brings. And which is what we're about to talk about now. So we know what our will is, but what's God's will? God's will is us to be obedient to him. Us to be obedient to him. But I'm going to change the narrative on this. Because I know I used to look at it like this as a hindrance. And like I'm going to keep saying every single time, you probably heard it already, it's not a hindrance. It's really saving us. It's really helping us. And you don't realize that when you busy trying to, do the things that he's saying not do. But once you done been through a couple rodeos and you see, man, that is really just not fulfilling. That is really not for me. I've learned my lesson. I'm trying to stay away from that because I know it's just false joy. It's counterfeit. Once you start realizing that, you'll realize, okay, God's word really isn't a hindrance. It's really trying to save me from the drama that comes from the pride or the lust of the flesh. It's trying to save me from financial problems that come from the lust of the eyes. And the lust of the eyes is covetousness too. Want something that somebody else got. That can be somebody old lady. That can be somebody bored. Like that can be anything. And we ain't gonna too much get into that one now. We ain't gonna get into that one, but you get the point. You get the point. But Psalms 19:8 says, the commands of the Lord are right, giving joy to our heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. Radiant means shine brightly. So the commands of the Lord are right, which gives joy to your heart. Following the Lord's command gives joy to your heart, and it gives light to your eyes. It gives you a certain bounce. It gives you a certain look. It gives you a certain demeanor. People know something about you. People can tell, like, that young man got it going on, or that young lady is bound for success. Like, they can tell something different about you when you obeying God, when you following his will. Deuteronomy 6:24-25 says, the Lord commanded us to obey his word, honor and respect him, so we can be prosperous. So we can be prosperous and enjoy a good life. So we can be prosperous and enjoy. Like, I've never heard somebody say, yeah, man, I was obedient to God and following his will, but I'm just not satisfied with the results. Like, I ain't too proud of what it got me. I ain't never heard nobody say that. I really have never heard nobody say that. Because I don't think that's a such thing. Because God knows exactly what you want. God knows exactly what you need. And a lot of time we post a lot of prosperity verses, like I said last week, but those things come with commands before the actual promise that he'll give you prosperity. At least this verse do. You know what I'm saying? Go find one and show me that it don't. He's asking us to follow his will, and he will give us blessings. And I think that's so dope because at the end of the day, God then really gave us free game through this word right here on how to receive his blessings. Like, it's clear and obvious on how to receive his blessings, his love, his joy, peace, all these things. It's right there and it's like clear as day. It's clear as day, but our will is so strong, like I said, because we're naturally selfish, that it gets hard sometimes to follow his will because our will is all temporary. Temporary. I said that kind of weird. So we got to make sure that we're not sitting on our will. We got to make sure we're not sitting on our will, because the interesting thing about this story is this young man probably did not come up. It's hard to think that he came up with the idea, I want my share of the estate, and he went right to his father in that moment. Because that's such a big thing. He had to be thinking about that for a little minute, not knowing what his pops was going to say, not knowing the response he was going to get, not even knowing if it was a good idea or knowing it wasn't, but just wanted to experience it anyway. He was sitting on his will, and don't sit on your will. Anytime you have a selfish thought, selfish desire, immediately, literally immediately, like, nah, bro, that ain't it. Because the longer you sit on it, it's inevitable that you're going to act on it. Only kingdom requests can satisfy a kingdom heart. That's real. We have a kingdom design heart. Our heart desires things from the kingdom. So only kingdom requests and abiding by kingdom requests can satisfy our kingdom hearts. But here's the thing. Let me get all these sticky notes out the way. Here's the thing. God doesn't need our obedience to feel like he's God, because then that would be the pride of life from him. And he's asking us not to be the pride of life. And he's perfect. He don't need our obedience. So the fact that he's asking us to be obedient means he just want to bless us. He just want to show out in our lives. He just want to give us glory. He just want to show us his glory so people can see, okay, that man got something going on, and I'm supposed to be like, all right, I ain't living in a pride of life. This all credit to God. This ain't credit to me. Not my achievements. Like all of this that you're looking at right here, credit to God. But that's how it's supposed to be. He's in love with blessing us, but not at the expense of us doing whatever we want to do and following our will. And that's why I think he let the son go when the son asked. Because God isn't forcing you to be obedient and so he can bless you too. Like, he's not forcing you to do this because you have to make that choice that, okay, do I want to settle for less or do I want to experience the life that God has for me? Do I want to settle in this or do I actually want to experience God's blessings? He's not going to force you to be obedient when obedience comes with blessings and love and all that those good things that he going to give you with obedience. What's so funny to me, and we move into the next point, is that this son really had an inheritance, which to me, that means he didn't lack at home. He didn't lack at home. And what's crazy is why would he be so concerned with leaving a place where he also has an inheritance, so when stuff go left and stuff go bad, he got something to lean back on. But he also got a place where he's not lacking anything. If you go to the end of the story, which I didn't read or put in this particular message, the daddy told the other son, "You're always with me and everything I have is yours." Like, he's clearly living in abundance with his father. You know what I'm saying? So what made him want to leave? His lack of contentment. His lack of contentment. His inability to be content is what made him experience the end. When you're not content with what God or what season God has you in, you'll follow your will to try to make something shake that ain't gonna shake. His lack of contentment led him to want more, getting more, but ending up with nothing. His lack of contentment led him to want more, getting more, but ending up with nothing. And we can never get out of the trap of choosing our will until we first notice that God, whatever God asks, is not holding us back from something that we need, as I said a while ago. Secondly, notice what God asks is protection, not prison. And thirdly, we got to notice that like I said, notice we're not from this world, but we're from a kingdom. So anything this world offers doesn't know how to fulfill us, only temporarily satisfies us. Only temporarily satisfies us. So going to the next point, it says, not long after that, so right when his father gave him that, not long after that, which means he already had been thinking about it again, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living, which is his own will. Our own will is literally craving wild living. Our own will is craving that type of stuff. The lust of the flesh is craving that wild stuff. The lust of the eyes, craving that. But he squandered all he had in a distant country, which means he left the presence of the kingdom and left the presence of God and went to a theme park. I don't know what the theme park called. Maybe Stuck in Ordinary. And squandered all he had on wild living, which leads to the second point that I'm going to right now. And he said after he spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. That's crazy how the tables turned that fast on homie. I really hated it for bro at this point. Point 2, are you living in a famine? Are you living in a famine? A famine is a place of need, a place of shortage. It's a place of lack, a place of not having enough. And here it's talking about food, but a famine can be spiritually. You lacking spiritually, you lacking emotionally, mentally. You may have money, but you may be in the dumps emotionally. You may not have, money. That may be your famine. You may not have food. All these things. Are you in a famine? Are you in a famine? If so, what's your famine? Right now, figure it out. Like YouTubers be like the video. Oh yeah, also like the video. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to like it. And they look at you. Me and my friend just laughed about that today. But what's your famine? Right now, figure it out. Is it financially? What's your famine? Is it spiritually? Where do you feel like you lack? Where do you feel like you going through a shortage? Famines weren't designed to live in. Our own will put us there. Famines weren't designed for us to live in. Living without, living in shortage, or living in need, or living in lack, that wasn't designed for us to live in. Our own will put us there. How do you know this, Tyler? Well, when I be reading the word, I be looking for the small words. See, this is a small word that you will miss when you just hear me saying it. But it says, not long after that, the young son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. And then it says, after he had spent everything, there was a severe famine. After he spent everything, there was a severe famine. After is the word that was so important to me. Because God didn't send a famine when he had enough to survive through it. That was good right there. Oh, that was good. That just hit me. God sent the famine when he didn't have nothing left, which shows me that God sends those seasons to our life to show us to come back home and not live in a famine. Oh, that was good. That's good. God sent, he didn't send the famine. It says after he spent everything. God waited. He could have sent the famine when the boy had enough money to go buy stuff from people and, buy cattle, or maybe even came with cattle and stuff like that. Who knows at this time? But point is, after he lost it all, is when God sent the warning of come back home. You can't do this on your own. After, which led him to have two choices. As like I said, that's why beginning at the end is such a beautiful place, because you can stay there and you can struggle and you can want to be with the pigs and not be hungry and settle for scraps, like I said earlier, or you can leave there and go back home. His will had him doing to have enough instead of being and having enough. So he left from being a son and having enough to having to do and work just to have enough. I wish I had my phone with me right now, which may mean that it ain't meant to be. But Devon, I'm going to post it on my social media. I posted it the last couple, no, I didn't. I posted it like a year or two ago, and it was so good. But Devon Franklin makes a perfect point, and this was going to be at us men, about how we need to focus on being more than doing. Being more than doing. I ain't going to get into it since I can't describe it perfectly, because I don't want to make it sound less powerful than it is, if that makes sense. But famines are designed to show you don't have enough strength on your own. Famines are designed to show you don't have enough strength on your own. It's the beginning at the end. So you can keep being INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that means? You can keep being independent. Or you can realize, man, living for myself is exhausting. You can keep being independent. Or you can realize living for myself is exhausting. You're only in a famine because you haven't turned back to your source. You're only in a famine because you haven't turned back to your source. Matthew 6:25-34 says, do not worry about your life. That's a bold, bold statement that every single day I have to keep saying that to myself and speaking that over myself. And it's not that Jesus is saying, don't worry about your life because it's unimportant or it don't matter. But he's saying, don't worry about your life because I got this. Like when you're going out, don't worry about it, bro. I'm going to pay for it. He's saying, don't worry about your life. I got this. Don't worry about your life, what you should eat, wear, or drink. Is life not much more than this? And he talks about how the birds do nothing but fly around and enjoy life, and God keeps them fed. And aren't we 1,000 times more valuable to them? Then he talks about how the flowers are so beautiful, and then, they're going to be picked up, plucked away, and thrown into a fire, but still God makes them beautiful. And aren't we more valuable than flowers? So he's saying, do not worry about these things. And the challenge of the week is this right here. And it's a tough challenge for you because it's a crazy tough challenge for me. And it's a crazy tough challenge for us as humans. Let go of control. Let go of control. And that even scared me just thinking about it. Because I know the last 2 or 3 months, I've been trying to be so in control of everything because I'm scared that if I let go of control, things will go downhill. But that shows you your heart posture right there. That shows what you don't trust God with. And anytime you find yourself struggling to let go of control, you'll always be stuck in your own will, which means you'll always be stuck at a dead end. Let go of control. Letting go of control is scarier, but having faith that God gonna come through is so much more rewarding than having control. And that is so true. Let go of control. And when I say let go of control, you gotta let go of timing too. Your idea of timing. And this was crazy. I read this week. I read this in the Word this week. It says that God moves swiftly in timing. When the time is right, God moves swiftly, which means that God is swift in timing, but not with timing. What does that mean, Tyler? That when it's time, God finna make everything come together swiftly, which means crazy fast. It's finna be, you see how quick I'm snapping my fingers? I wish I might zoom in on this, but you see how quick I'm snapping my fingers? Swiftly. He makes it move swiftly in timing. But we want him to move swiftly with timing. We want it to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow. We want it to happen tomorrow. But that's not how it works, because God's timing is better than our timing. We know that. So when I say let go of control, you got to let go of your idea of timing as well. Because when he moves, but it has to be in timing. Keep going with the verse as well. It says, so do not worry about these things, because unbelievers chase this. And this is another side note. I think this is why our lives as believers seem so similar to the life of unbelievers, because we both have this common thing where we want to have control. And as believers, our lives are supposed to be different than unbelievers. So when their lives are at a dead end, they can look over at a believer and not see that believer at a dead end with them. And be like, why I need God if you still right here with me? But no, I think legit our lives look so similar as believers because we refuse to let go of control. Do not worry about your life. That's a bold statement, but it comes with this truth right here. And this is so good right here. When I read this was just so good. It says, because unbelievers chase this, and your Father knows you need them. He knows you need, food. He knows you need things to wear. He knows you need drink. He knows you need a good life. He knows that. But seek first above all. Seek first above all. Why? So these things won't become your God. If you're seeking money first, that becomes your God. If you're seeking what I'm aware for, that becomes your God. Lowercase g God. And that has no type of power to fulfill you, save you, help you, heal you, love you, joy you, all that. So seek first above all these, and then these things will be given to you. And one scripture said, or one version of scripture says, all these things will be given to you abundantly. So not only will you have more than people who only focus on that, but I don't know what I was just finna say right there. Point is, not only will you have it, but you'll have more because you'll have abundance of it. Seek first. And what's so beautiful about that is like, God isn't just saying, seek the kingdom first or seek the kingdom and let go of everything else. He's saying, no, I know these things are important and I know you not only want them, but you need them. God understands we need them. We need them. So seek first the kingdom and he will give you all of these things abundantly. Abundantly. So check your source. Are you your source? Same as last week. Are you your source? And this is differently, but are you your source or God your source? Is it your will or God's will? Because God wants his job back. God wants his job back. You ain't doing too good at it anyway. I ain't doing too good at it anyway. Anytime we put ourselves in a position to play God in our lives, we are failing miserably. Failing miserably. Point 3 then. It's time to come to our senses. It's time to come to our senses. To realize we've been deceived by culture to believe that we can make a life for ourselves, that we self-made, that all things we want to come together for our good is dependent on us. Scripture even say that. God makes all things work for our good, not us. Or deceived by the enemy to think that I can fulfill my heart with the things of the world and not actually God himself. It's time to come to our senses. Going off Isaiah 30 again, 15, it says, only in returning to me and resting in me will you be saved from this. From this what? This famine, this calamity, this dead end, this life of being stuck, this life of not having joy. Only in returning to me and resting in me will you be saved from this. So stop trying to save yourself. Your strength will come from settling down in complete dependence on me, the very thing you've been unwilling to do. Word of the day, complete dependence. Like I said, lose control, give God control. Complete dependence goes hand in hand with that. And one thing I want you to think about right now is what areas in your life have you been unwilling to depend on God, but solely dependent on yourself and your will? What areas? Literally think about that. That's important, man. Stop trying to save yourself. Your strength will come from settling down in complete dependence on me. What areas? Is it love, your love life? Hey, that could be one for me right there. That's mine. I check that off. Is it money? Is it your job? What is it? Your career? What is it that you dependent on your will instead of solely being completely dependent on God's will? Where is it? Where is it? Verse 17, going back to the regular one, to our scripture about the story, it says that he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, thank God he came to his senses. But what led him to his senses? His hunger, his lack, his unfulfillment. And what's so scary to me is that people today are comfortable with living with those things. This made that young man come to his senses, but this makes some people become comfortable. Comfortable with not having enough or barely making it by check to check or, lacking or not seeing the life that they want. Being in a famine, they become comfortable. Because what's so funny is our society, a lot of people may be stuck in a famine. And this one, it says the whole country was experiencing the famine. But thank God this young man came from a place where he knew, hold up, this ain't all that's out there for me. I had to come to my senses for a second. He says next, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And I'm not even out here eating nothing. Here I am starving to death. How many of my family's hired servants? Hired servant. He was a son, and he talking about how many of his family's hired servants have more than what he just got. And then you know what that showed me? The best blessing that you can do for yourself will always be far less than the least blessing God can do for you. Ooh. The best blessing you can do for yourself will always be far less than the least blessing God can do for you. Or the best position you can put yourself in will always be far less than the position God can put you in. However you want to look at it. Like we said earlier, the one who handmade you and designed you literally knows what you need more than you. And we want to follow our will, which is sinful. And sin breaks God's heart, so how can we expect it to fulfill ours? I seen it on somebody's Instagram story. Shout out to you if you watching this. I don't want you thinking I'm stealing your clout. But shout out to you for saying that, because that was powerful. If sin breaks our heart, how can we expect it? If sin breaks God's heart, how can we expect it to fulfill ours? It's time to come to our senses. Come to our senses. If you don't come to your senses, if we don't come to our senses, because this is a struggle we can go through every single day, we'll stay stuck at a dead end job, a dead end relationship, dead end finances. We'll stay stuck in a dead end. We don't come to our senses to realize what I'm not being completely dependent on with God is really hurting me. My will is my enemy. My will is my enemy. But at a dead end, all you got to do is what you do when you go to a dead end. You travel down that road. You just finna bust a U-turn. You finna turn around, turn around. I don't know where I heard that song from. But all you got to do is turn around. Verse 8, I'm so weak at that. I don't know where I heard that song from. Verse 18 says in Isaiah 30:18, after he said, only in returning me and resting in me will you be saved from this. Stop trying to save yourself. Your strength will come from settling down and complete dependence on me, the very thing you've been unwilling to do. And skip down a couple verses to verse 18. Whoa, come on, man. What you doing? All right, now. I ain't know what that was. That scared me so bad. Skip down to verse 18. It says, so the Lord must wait for you to come to him. The Lord must wait for you. He waiting on you. That's what's so crazy. Like stuff be fitting together when you making a message. U-turn, like you got to do a U-turn. U-turn, the Lord waiting for you. Kind of, yeah. I don't know. I hope. So the Lord must wait for you to come to him so he can show you his love and compassion. For the Lord is a faithful God. So the Lord must wait for you to come to him. U-turn, time for a U-turn, so he can show you his love and compassion. For the Lord is a faithful God, which leads to point 4 and the last point. The biggest misconceptions about God. So we had where the end begins. Are you living in a famine? It's time to come to your senses. The biggest misconceptions about God. And the first one is that your mistakes were, or the big misconceptions about God, it's time to come home. And these are the 4 things that I want us to understand, not to keep having misconceptions about them. I wrote them down a little different. I got to put these paper together. I thought it just messed up like that. But point 1, your mistakes were expected and accounted for. Your mistakes were expected. Like God expected you to make mistakes. And he accounted for them. God is wise. God is smart. God is wise and God is smart. Because we're so scared, like some of us are so scared to go back to God because we feel like, oh man, I done made too many mistakes, or I done messed up too many times, or I done did too much dirt, or I done experienced too much hurt, or I done hurt too many people. We think our mistakes weren't expected and accounted for. And this was so beautiful about this whole text, man. This was so beautiful. First of all, this is a story that Jesus is telling about God. Who knows God better than Jesus himself? Literally nobody knows God better than Jesus himself. He knows God 1,000%. He know God like better than you know yourself. Jesus is telling this story. This ain't Paul or Mark telling a story about what Jesus said. This is Jesus himself. Which you can't be like, oh, he maybe just said that for you. Nah, because it's right in his word that if you read it, it's for all of us. It's for all of us. And what's beautiful is this right here. It says, he already had discussed, Father, I'm going to just go home and tell my dad I sinned against him and I sinned against heaven. And that he can make me one of his servants. So yeah, he went home. And you can imagine when he went home, he wasn't all just happy. He was probably just like, man, I done ruined it all, man. I suck. I'm not enough, bro. I can't believe I did this. My dad probably ain't going to even accept. He didn't even know if his dad was going to accept him when he was going back home. So I'm sure he wasn't all jolly. But it says this right now. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. This crazy to me. Because it don't say how long this guy was gone. This is my favorite part of the text. This right here be making me bad emotion. It don't say how long this son was gone. But when the son came back, drooped in emotions, He didn't have to go find his dad, man. He didn't have to go find his father. His father was already looking and expecting him. That's so crazy to me, man. He didn't end up getting back home and his dad was in the kitchen doing something else. He didn't get back and his father was in there making a meal and was just surprised to see him. No, he was expecting him. He was expecting him. He was expecting him. Our mistakes were pre-known. Our mistakes were pre-known. God is just saying, I made a way, come home. Come home. I made a way for you that even though you have been making your own mistakes and doing your own thing, I've made a way for you to still come home. And I forgive you. I don't hold it against you. 2 Corinthians 5:21 says, for God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin so we can be made right with God through Christ. And every day of my life, I'm realizing how important Jesus is. Every day. Every day of my life, I'm realizing how important Jesus is because every day of my life, I'm realizing how weak I am. And if that was never a way that God made a way for all of our mistakes to be wiped clean, and make this very clear, this is not a hat off for you to go keep doing your own thing and knowing God gonna forget. That's not that, because you're gonna end up still being in a dead end. But this for the people who genuinely feel like, man, I just did too much. This isn't a go sign to keep sinning. This is for people who feel like they done too much. And even if, people who follow Christ every day, we need this too. You need this too. Because this is beauty, man. Everybody has weakness. Everybody has struggles. Everybody has things that disqualify us from God. But Jesus came that our punishment should be on him. And we should be seen in the way Jesus lived, which was perfect, righteous. That's just good news, man. That the gospel mean good news, and that's some good news, dog. Because once you know all your life, like all your struggles and all your mistakes and all your mishaps, you so thankful for that, bro. So thankful for that. So your mistakes were expected and accounted for. Point 2, you're worth more than your mistakes. You're worth more than your mistakes. Not only did he just see him a long way off, but the Father saw him and was filled with compassion for him and ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Kissing is a sign of either death or life back then. Judas kissed Jesus, that was a sign of death, but kissing was also a sign of life, as in, peace be with you, life. So not only did he run with him with compassion, gave him a kiss. Gave him a kiss, man. You're worth more than your mistakes. That shows worth. I'm not finna just be like, and that's the thing. We gotta quit looking at God in the light of our parents. Because our parents are human. And you may have had your parents where you messed up and they made you feel like a straight disappointment. Or you may have had your parents where you messed up and you were so scared to go home because you knew what was coming. But we got to start looking at God as the way he is. And he is so forgiving, so loving, so caring, so everything that you don't expect him to be when you then messed up and going back. Because even me to this day, like I've had times where I still just can't believe that God just that good. Like it got to be a catch. Nope, not a catch. That's what's crazy. You're worth more than your mistakes. He's not disappointed with you. And you're definitely not a disappointment to him. He's not disappointed with you. And you're definitely not a disappointment to him. God's is understanding. This is the most beautiful thing. And one of the most beautiful things. I can't even call out one thing. He is so understanding. That's one of the most beautiful things about his love, is his understanding. Hebrews 4:15-16 said, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin. This ain't a verse to just God, Jesus stun on us. This is a verse for one to show us He did not sin. That gives us an example how we can conquer the systems of the world, or how we can conquer how the devil try to, play us. We can go look at Jesus' life, and for us to also know that he understands. So when we in those times of where we want to, like I said, don't sit on your wheel in those moments. Be like, Jesus, I need your help, man, because I am in a position of where I'm about to go head first. I need your help. He put himself in he didn't scream from heaven like, hey, don't do that. But he came down here and showed us how good life can be if we don't do that, if we don't live in sin. But he also says in 16, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence. Go back home with confidence so that we may receive mercy. Mercy is somebody giving you forgiveness when they could be in a position to punish you. And find grace, which is unmerited favor. It say we wake up every day with new grace. Unmerited favor. God just giving us favor for free. Just for the free. Just because of who we is and just because of what Jesus did for us. Find grace to help us in our time of need. Receive mercy. Come boldly. First of all, come boldly. Come home, come boldly. Receive mercy. Receive grace. Point 3, 2 more. Your mistakes didn't change God. That's good news, man. That's good news. You still get his best. And the story says after he hugged him and kissed him, the son said, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick. He ignored him. He was like, come on, bro, you talking nonsense. Quick. Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest of all fattest calves and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. Your mistakes didn't change God. When you come home, you still get his best. You still get his best. God don't change just because you had went through something or you made mistakes. That's one of my favorite things. God was faithful through my foolishness. God was faithful. When I was foolish, he was faithful because he's unwavering in his faithfulness. God's whole mission is to redeem creation. That's his whole mission. Is to say he wants everybody to be saved. He wants to redeem creation. So why would he give up on you? Why would he change up on you? Unwavering faithfulness. Unwavering faithfulness. He also loves unconditionally. Romans 8:38 says, there's nothing in creation that can separate you from the love of God. He loves unconditionally. Unconditionally means he just loves for free. No matter what you do, he loves you. No matter what you did, he loves you. No matter what you're going to do in the future, he loves you. Come home each and every single time because home is the only way you can stay out that dead end. He loves you. See, God is so good at that, and like God is so good at forgiving, there's literally no reason to be stuck at a dead end. Like God is so good at forgiving. So good at forgiving. Like he's perfect at all things. Perfect at all things. And where we mess up is we'll look at God as a judge. As I spoke earlier, we'll look at God as a judger, but not understand how good he is at forgiving. We'll see God as this huge punisher, but not see God's grace and mercy. We'll understand we'll understand very well how good God is at judging, but we'll fail to understand how good God is at loving. He's perfect at all things. He doesn't do one more than the other. He's great, perfect at all things. Perfect at all things. And the last point is, your mistakes did not come with a demotion. You're still his child. After he said, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine, he's still claiming. You better claim him. You better claim him. For this son of mine, claim him, was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. It's a uddy. Hey. It's a party. It's a party when you come back home, man. Your mistakes did not come with a demotion. And a lot of times we want to do that so bad. Oh, I done messed up, God. You ain't even got to give me no blood. You ain't even got to do this. Your mistakes don't come with a demotion, man. You're still his child. What we got to understand is what makes God's heart smile the most, in my opinion. What makes his heart smile the most is simply having you and me and claiming you and me as his child. Not what you can do, not your gift, not your calling, not you acting on it, but simply having a relationship with you and me makes God's heart smile the most. Us loving him and loving each other. It says, I'm happy he found. He said, my son was dead, but is alive again. He was lost, but found. He didn't say, see, I told you shouldn't have went out there and did it. No. He's happy you're back. Not worried about where you been. He's happy you're here, not worried about where you was. He's happy you found, not caring about the fact that you was dead. He's not holding that against you. He's happy you're alive. I don't know why I said found and dead. He's happy you're alive, not holding the fact that you was dead before against you. He's happy you're found. Like all these beautiful things, man. Like that's love, dog. That's love, man. That's some good news. That's some good news. That's some good news. He's not going to give up on us. That's great news. He sent his one and only son, to give us the opportunity to become one of his children. He sent his one and only son to give us the opportunity to become one of his children. So do you think he would put himself through all that hurt that he experienced with Jesus, going through all those sins put on him? Because that's a generation and generations of sin on his son, his one and only. You think he'll put himself through all that hurt just to give up on you? No. That's the simple answer. No. So this week, I want us to figure out 4 things. Are you living out of your will or God's will? That's the first thing. Secondly, are you living in a famine that was designed to bring you home? Are you living in a famine that was designed to bring you home? Thirdly, have you come to your senses to realize a life in your will leads to stuck and ordinary, which is not what you designed for? Or are you still stuck and ordinary? Have you come to your senses yet? And lastly, will you return home this week if you're not home already? Will you return to your source? Will you return home? Jesus said there's a party in heaven when one sinner repents and comes home. Make God and heaven happy this week. Come home. Come home. That's why we begin at the end. Because the end of our strength is only the beginning of God's. And that's my message for you all this week. Hey, I hope you got a lot out of it. I love y'all so much, man. So much. And I hope this blessed your heart. And this is something you can chew on for this week and next week. And I love y'all so much. I'm going to miss y'all this next week. See y'all.